employer, as you know. And like a lot of big employers, on many job applications, there's a box that asks if you have a criminal record. If you answer yes, then a lot of times you're not getting a call back. And we're going to do our part in changing this. The federal government, I believe, should not use criminal history to screen out applicants before we even look at their qualifications. We can't dismiss people out of hand simply because of a mistake that they made in the past. Keep in mind, some really good, really successful companies are already doing this. Walmart, Target, Koch Industries, Home Depot, they've already taken action to ban the box on their own. And 19 states have done the same.
Did he just say Coke? That was President Obama in Newark, New Jersey, discussing the growing bipartisan effort to reform our nation's criminal justice system. Joining us now, Senior Vice President and General Counsel at Koch Industries, Mark Holden, also with us, member of the Wichita Gang Coalition, and Real Men, Real Heroes, David Gilkey. Good to have you both on the show this morning.
Let's start with an email you got yesterday, actually, from Valerie Jarrett,
saying that we don't agree with the Kochs on everything, but we do on this, and they've been working with you directly, Mark.
And showing her bad judgment, she said nice things about you.
I couldn't believe it.
That was horrible.
What's going on?
Joe, you've gotten to know me.
You're a Patriots fan.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
Yeah.
I'm a Pats fan, but we've been working with the White House and Valerie Jarrett. In particular, I've been meeting with Ms. Jarrett a lot the last few months. It's been great.
Right.
And this is a bipartisan coalition at a time when nothing seems to get done.
I was just going to say, at a time when Washington can't get things fixed, you were doing something that politically would have been unimaginable. I'm saying you, the White House, the ACLU, so many other groups, that would have been unimaginable 5 years ago. This is fairly controversial legislation, but there's a bipartisan effort to really change criminal justice in America.
Yeah, it really shouldn't be that controversial. I mean, and it needs to be a bipartisan effort because we know we got into this mess in the criminal justice system in a bipartisan way. It started in the 80s with Reagan, then Bush, then Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton. So it needs to be fixed that way. But what we're talking about, the reforms in particular that are in the Senate reform bill, are reforms that have worked in dozens of states, including red states, Georgia, Texas. And the reality is, in those states, they've reduced incarceration, reduced spending, and they've reduced crime, and it's helped people rebuild their lives and have a second chance, which is so important in our society.
Well, and David, that's what we keep hearing when we talk about criminal justice reform. This is about helping the most disadvantaged in America make a mistake, but get back up on their feet and start a new life.
Yeah, I know I can speak for myself. Being a former inmate and coming back to the community, it's hard. You would want the community to wrap their arms around you and show you some love, and you have to have a support network when you come home, because when you're going in, it's a survival mode. That when you come out, you want to be able to live and be productive and take care of your families and do the right things.
David, both you and your wife are engaged in this program. You're involved in this program. So let me ask you, you're dealing with a great many people, young people, male and female, many of them probably from broken homes, many of them who have heard the sounds of gunfire more than they've heard the sounds of music in their lives. What do you do? What's your argument between the two competing forces of the street and the school?
Well, I think we need to have more intervention and prevention programs in our schools. I think a lot of our young people are falling through the gaps because of the lack of male role models and things of that sort. I think one thing we need to do is focus really hard on educating our young people and not be scared of our young generation, but educate them more so they can be productive.
We're hoping one day that Sam Stein will be productive as well, but that day hasn't come yet.
Happen.
Took you a while to get to that dig, and I appreciate it, David. Criminal justice reform only works if on the back end we can help people with reentry. Otherwise, just keep going in cycles. So what are the three things, maybe two, whatever, that our political system and our culture, our society as a whole, can do to help people who leave prison make sure that they reenter society and don't get reincarcerated?
Well, first of all, we got to give them jobs. Nothing stops a bullet like a job. I think people need to understand when these people come home, the first thing they're looking for is stability, and one way to do that is give them jobs, because if they don't have a place to go work, all they're going to do is go back to criminal behavior because they're still in survival mode. They want to come home and live and be productive just like anybody else. But without a job, it's very hard. I know for myself, you know, coming home and looking for those jobs, and then when I go put an application, they throw mine in the trash. I never make it to an interview.
Hey, Mark, in the bill that you were talking about, does it deal with mandatory minimums?
Yeah, what it does, Mike, it allows judges to do their jobs for once, and low-level offenders, we're talking street level and lower, they have a new safety valve where judges can still throw the book at offenders, but they don't have to. They can give them another path, potentially, show some mercy, and we think that's important.
Well, and especially on drug crimes.
That's what we're talking about, low-level nonviolent drug offenders in particular, because if you get a 5 or 10-year sentence, to David's point, you can't get a job when you get out, and usually you go into prison, and we turn people that we're mad at into people we're scared of. And if you go to prison and there are no programs in there to make you a better person, it's not surprising when you come out, you'll reoffend.
What kind of programs can you do in prison to help with that reentry that comes after prison?
Well, that's starting to change, too. In state prisons, here in Kansas, we have a pretty good program in El Dorado State Prison where it's a holistic approach where it deals with the person's, whatever's ailing them from a dispute resolution. They're not a good father, a good husband. Teach them to be a better person, then pair them up with someone in the community as a mentor, someone they're accountable to who can help them find a job when they get on the street.
So let me ask you about evidence-based sentencing. One of the things we've talked about a lot on our show through the years is if you're a white kid living in, let's say, Scarsdale, and you come from middle class to upper middle class family, you get caught with pot, chances are good you're in a diversion program all over America. But if you are 10 miles away in the Bronx and you're a black kid or a Hispanic kid from a family with a single mom, you could be going to jail for 2 or 3 years. How do we end the disparity between the rich and the poor when it comes to sentencing?
Well, I mean, you need to end the disparity in the whole justice system between rich and poor. We've got a 2-tier system right now, and that's one of the things Charles talks about all the time. And if you're wealthy, you're probably going to be okay, regardless of what you did.
And if
you're going to get a lawyer, and you'll get a good deal. And if you're poor, you're going to get run over from beginning to end.
Which is a violation of the Sixth Amendment.
It's a violation. It's morally, constitutionally indefensible. Sixth Amendment-wise, Fifth Amendment-wise. And you've got people as diverse as Kaczynski, who's a Ninth Circuit conservative judge, and Rakoff, who's a Southern District judge, saying we're concerned now that people are pleading guilty to things they didn't do because it's overwhelming, particularly if you're poor. You don't have a lawyer who's devoted full time to you. You get run over, and you decide it becomes almost like a business decision. You're going to say, I'll take the 2 or 3 years. It's a felony. I'll be out. But you don't realize all the collateral consequences. There's at least 50,000 collateral consequences to a felony conviction in this country.
Really?
To keep you from realizing the American dream and partaking in American life.
And there are some innocent people, especially without adequate representation, that say, I'd rather take a deal and sit in jail for 2 years than have them take me to trial without a good lawyer and spend 10 to 15.
Yes, I mean, you know, I'm just going to be honest. People are getting rich off our despair. People are making a lot of money off the prison system. I truly believe one thing that me personally I think should happen if a person has paid their debt to society, depending on their felony, I think their record should be automatically expunged after 5 years. I think they should be reintegrated back into our community with expungement if they haven't committed any crimes after 5 years.
Really one of the key issues of our time.
It
we
is,
have to
and
wrap
really
it up.
quickly, I know we do. Really quickly,
Yes, sir.
The numbers, I love hearing from you. How much do we spend on educating Americans versus incarcerating Americans?
We have $250 billion a year on the criminal justice system we spend. We spend $80 billion a year on incarcerating people, many of whom probably don't belong in prison but belong in a mental hospital or a drug treatment program. We spend, that $80 billion is 3 to 4 times more per capita than we spend on educating people in this country.
Wow.
All right, Mark Holden and David Gilkey, thank you.